One calculated click, that is all it took for Prince William to send a message so devastating, so unmistakably clear, that Harry is reportedly beside himself with fury. The future king has weaponized something nobody saw coming, the official royal website itself, and what he has done with it represents the most ruthless power play we have witnessed in modern royal history. Folks, this is not some petty family squabble over dinner seating arrangements. This is William drawing a line in the digital sand, and his younger brother just discovered exactly which side of that line he stands on. The removal of Prince Andrew from the royal website was not simply administrative housekeeping. Sources confirm that William was instrumental in pushing for this erasure, this complete digital elimination of a disgraced royal from the family's official online presence. And here is what has Harry absolutely steaming. He understands exactly what this means. If Andrew can be removed, if a son of the late Queen can simply vanish from royal.uk like he never existed, then the precedent has been set. The mechanism exists. The path has been cleared, and William is holding the map. Let us be brutally honest about what we are witnessing here. William has positioned himself as the gatekeeper of royal legitimacy in the digital age. In 2025, your online presence is your existence. If you are not on the website, do you even matter? And William knows this. Catherine knows this. Together, they have been quietly accumulating influence over exactly what appears on the official royal platforms, and they are using that power with surgical precision. One insider put it perfectly. William is playing chess while Harry is still trying to figure out how the pieces move. The message could not be clearer if William had hired a skywriter to spell it out over Montecito. This is how people get erased. This is how non-working royals become digital ghosts. This is how the institution you claim to despise can make you irrelevant with the click of a button. Andrew found out the hard way, and now Harry is staring at his own profile on royal.uk, wondering when his turn might come. Sources close to Kensington Palace describe William as methodical, patient, and absolutely unwavering in his approach to the Sussex situation. He is not interested in public feuds or tabloid wars. He is interested in something far more permanent. He is building the architecture of Harry's irrelevance, one strategic decision at a time, and the royal website is just the beginning of this campaign that has left palace insiders both impressed and slightly unnerved by the future king's resolve. But the website drama has sparked something nobody expected, and Harry's desperate response reveals just how much he needs the very institution he has spent years attempting to destroy. The power shift happening behind palace gates is unlike anything we have seen in generations, and William is emerging as the undisputed master of the royal digital domain. Sources confirm that he and Catherine have been working in tandem to control what appears on the official royal website, transforming it from a dusty digital brochure into a weapon of strategic communication. Every photo, every biography update, every subtle change is now filtered through their vision of what the modern monarchy should represent. And that vision quite clearly has very little room for wayward younger brothers living in California mansions. What makes this particularly fascinating is the bizarre reason Harry recently reached out to William. Brace yourselves, because this is almost too ironic to believe. Harry wants something removed from his own profile on the royal website, the same man who wrote an entire memoir trashing the institution, who sat for hours of Netflix documentary footage criticizing his family, who has made attacking the monarchy his entire brand, suddenly needs the royal website to protect his image. Allow me to translate. Harry wants to eat his royal cake and have it too, and William is absolutely refusing to pass him a fork. The hypocrisy here is so thick you could cut it with a ceremonial sword. Harry has spent years positioning himself as someone who rejected the royal system, someone who wanted nothing to do with the stuffy traditions and outdated protocols of palace life. He told the world he was breaking free, finding his own path, building something better without the constraints of the crown, and yet here he is, practically begging for changes to his royal.uk biography. Because without that royal connection, without that official stamp of legitimacy, Harry is just another celebrity in a sea of celebrities, and not a particularly successful one at that. Sources familiar with the situation say Harry is acutely aware of how his official royal profile affects his credibility for commercial deals. When companies consider partnering with him, when speaking engagements are being negotiated, that royal.uk listing matters. It is essentially free advertising from the most prestigious family brand on earth. The irony is absolutely staggering. He wants all the benefits of being royal without any of the responsibilities. He wants the credibility without the commitment. He wants the title without the work. One palace insider described Harry's position as utterly untenable. You cannot spend years publicly attacking an institution and then expect that same institution to curate your image favorably. That is not how any of this works. And William, who has watched his brother's attacks with growing frustration, is in absolutely no mood to offer any assistance. But Harry's complaint is not the only Sussex demand causing eye rolls throughout the palace corridors, and what Meghan has requested is even more audacious. Harry's team made direct contact with William regarding one specific embarrassment they desperately want scrubbed from existence. The Erupts situation, including the Centre Barley disaster, remains prominently displayed on Harry's official royal biography for all the world to see. For those who might have forgotten this particular humiliation, let me refresh your memory. This is the same charity situation where Harry was publicly described by participants as a misogynist and a bully. Those words are not mine. Those are the documented accusations that emerged from his involvement. And right now as we speak, that information sits on royal.uk like a permanent stain on his official record. The desperation from Harry's camp is almost palpable. Sources say his team specifically requested that William intervene to have this information either removed or significantly softened. They framed it as a matter of outdated information, as routine biography maintenance. But everyone involved understood exactly what this was: damage control, image rehabilitation, an attempt to erase an embarrassing chapter that refuses to stay buried. And William's response, or rather his lack of response, speaks volumes about where these brothers now stand. William is in no rush to accommodate his brother's request. Let that sink in for a moment. The future king could easily make a phone call, send an email, authorize a simple edit. The technology exists, the capability is there. But William has chosen to let Harry's failures remain on public display, visible to every journalist, every potential business partner, every curious member of the public who visits the official royal website. One insider described this approach as absolutely calculated. William knows exactly what he is doing, and he is enjoying watching his brother squirm. Here is where it gets even more excruciating for Harry. Sources reveal that he attempted to use his recent UK court visit as an opportunity to address this situation with William directly. Harry reportedly hoped that being in the same country, perhaps even reaching out for an in-person conversation, might yield better results than his team's formal requests. The outcome was devastating. He was completely ignored. No meeting, no phone call, no acknowledgement whatsoever. William essentially treated Harry as if he did not exist, which, given the website situation, carries an ominously symbolic weight. The message from Kensington Palace could not be clearer. You made your choices. You live with the consequences. You do not get to spend years dragging this family through the mud and then expect favorable treatment when it suits your commercial interests. One source put it bluntly: Harry burned every bridge and is now shocked to discover he cannot cross the river. The lack of self-awareness would be amusing if it were not so pathetic. And if Harry thought his request was embarrassing, wait until you hear what Meghan demanded, because her audacity reaches truly breathtaking heights. Meghan Markle has made her own request regarding the royal website, and folks, this one requires you to sit down and perhaps pour yourself a stiff drink. According to sources, Meghan wants the website updated to reflect her successes. I had to read that twice myself. She wants the official royal website, the digital representation of the British monarchy, to showcase her accomplishments since leaving the family. Palace sources are reportedly asking the same question that immediately springs to mind. What successes exactly are we supposed to highlight here? Let us take a moment to review Meghan's post-royal track record, shall we? The Spotify podcast deal that ended with a senior executive calling their content junk and the couple being labeled as grifters, gone. The Lemonada podcast arrangement that collapsed before it could even gain traction, finished. The Netflix lifestyle show that was canceled before audiences could determine whether it was genuine or merely another exercise in self-promotion, terminated. Her American Riviera Orchard brand that launched with jams and mysteriously went quiet, stalled. The pattern here is not subtle. Everything these two touch develops an almost supernatural ability to fail spectacularly. The audacity of this request has left palace staff genuinely bewildered. One source described receiving this demand as almost comical. She spends every available opportunity criticizing the royal family, yet somehow expects that same family to serve as her public relations department. The disconnect from reality is staggering. Another insider noted that the request was laughed off almost immediately. There is apparently zero chance of the royal website being transformed into a promotional vehicle for Meghan's struggling ventures. But here is the truly delicious part of this situation. William and Catherine are described by sources as being very shrewd in making the Sussexes squirm. They are not ignoring these requests accidentally or due to administrative backlog. The silence is intentional. The inaction is strategic. By neither removing Harry's embarrassments nor adding Meghan's imaginary successes, they maintain the status quo in a way that maximizes discomfort in Montecito. Every day that website remains unchanged is another day the Sussexes are reminded of their diminished standing. Sources say Catherine in particular finds this situation rather satisfying after years of being portrayed as the villain in the Sussexes' victim narratives. She reportedly views the website standoff as a small but meaningful form of accountability. You cannot spend years trying to destroy someone's reputation and then expect her to do you favors. That is simply not how any reasonable person operates, and despite what certain memoir passages might suggest, Catherine is an exceedingly reasonable person. She simply has an excellent memory. The website drama represents just the visible tip of a much larger iceberg in William's strategic campaign against his brother. William's orchestration of Prince Andrew's removal from the royal website was not simply about punishing a disgraced uncle. It was about establishing a crucial precedent that has Harry's team deeply concerned. Sources confirm that William pushed for this removal precisely because it creates a template. Non-working royals can be digitally erased. There is now a documented procedure, an accepted practice, a roadmap for removing people from the official royal presence. And William made sure everyone noticed. The contrast in treatment is absolutely deliberate and devastatingly effective. Andrew was removed because of his disgrace, because his presence on the website became an embarrassment to the institution. But notice what William chose not to remove. Harry and Meghan's profiles remain intact, complete with their documented failures, their controversial associations, their embarrassing moments preserved for posterity. One insider explained the logic perfectly. Removing them would allow them to play victim again. Leaving their failures on display forces them to live with their choices. William is not trying to erase Harry. He is trying to ensure Harry cannot escape his own record. Sources confirm that William has become instrumental in all major website decisions, working closely with Catherine on the royal family's entire social media strategy. This is not micromanagement from an heir with too much time on his hands. This is a future king understanding that in the digital age, perception is reality. Whoever controls the narrative controls the crown's future. And William is making absolutely certain that when he eventually ascends to the throne, the digital infrastructure of the monarchy reflects his vision, not the chaos his brother has tried to create. Royal insiders have expressed private bewilderment about one aspect of this situation. Why has King Charles not applied the same treatment to Harry that Andrew received? If non-working royals can be removed from the website, why does Harry retain his listing? The answer, according to those familiar with palace dynamics, lies in the complicated relationship between the king and his youngest son. Charles still harbors hope for reconciliation. Charles still sees Harry as his child first and a problem second. William, however, views the situation through a colder, more strategic lens. One source described William as playing the long game with infinite patience. He cannot force his father to act against Harry directly, but he can build the infrastructure. He can establish the precedents. He can position all the pieces so that when he does eventually hold the ultimate authority, the work of delegitimizing Harry will already be substantially complete. The real question that palace watchers are asking cuts to the heart of a generational divide, and it reveals a brewing conflict between father and son. King Charles remains stubbornly reluctant to remove Harry from the royal website, despite his younger son no longer being a working member of the family. This reluctance has created a genuine tension between the monarch and his heir, one that sources describe as respectful but unmistakably present. Charles operates from sentiment, from the hope that family bonds might somehow be restored, from the belief that keeping doors open matters more than making statements. William operates from strategy, from the conviction that enabling bad behavior only encourages more of it. Sources close to the situation reveal that William can only push so far with his father regarding the Sussex situation. There are boundaries that even the Prince of Wales must respect when dealing with the reigning monarch. Charles may be ill. Charles may be increasingly delegating responsibilities, but Charles is still the king, and his word regarding family matters still carries ultimate authority. William has learned to work within these constraints, nudging rather than confronting, building foundations rather than issuing ultimatums. The generational tension here is fascinating. From a historical perspective, William represents the monarch-in-waiting mentality, someone preparing to inherit a changed institution in a changed world. He wants modernization, he wants accountability, he wants a royal family that operates on merit and commitment rather than birthright entitlement alone. Charles, by contrast, clings to more traditional notions of family loyalty, the idea that blood connections should survive even the most significant betrayals. One royal historian drew a compelling parallel to Queen Victoria and the future King Edward VII. Throughout history, heirs have often clashed with reigning monarchs over the pace and nature of change. What makes this situation particularly complicated is that both men have legitimate points. Charles is not wrong to hope for reconciliation. The family rupture with Harry has caused genuine pain, genuine damage to the institution's image, genuine questions about whether the monarchy can survive internal warfare. A restored relationship would benefit everyone. But William is also not wrong to demand consequences for Harry's choices. You cannot write best-selling books attacking your family and expect to retain all the privileges of membership. That is not how accountability works. One insider described the palace dynamic as a constant negotiation between these two perspectives. William pushes for action. Charles counsels patience. William presents evidence of Harry's continued attacks. Charles expresses hope that things might change. The cycle repeats, with neither man fully prevailing but both influencing outcomes. The website situation represents a compromise of sorts. Harry remains listed, satisfying Charles, but his embarrassments remain prominently displayed, satisfying William's desire for accountability. While the brothers battle behind palace gates over digital strategy and website content, Harry's public appearances tell an entirely different and frankly devastating story. Harry rushed directly from his UK court case to the Sundance Film Festival, and what transpired there exposed the uncomfortable reality of his current position in ways that no amount of spin can disguise. The Sussexes attended the premiere of a documentary called Cookie Queens, a film about Girl Scout cookie sellers that Netflix had already passed on. Let that detail sink in for a moment. They showed up to promote content that the streaming giant paying them millions had already rejected, and the premiere itself was reportedly a disaster of logistics and optics. Sources indicate that roughly 150 seats remained empty at the screening, a humiliating visual for a couple who supposedly commands global attention. 150 empty chairs at a premiere you are headlining is not a minor embarrassment. It is a devastating statement about your actual drawing power versus your perceived importance. The Sussexes have spent years cultivating an image of being the most sought-after celebrities in entertainment. Empty seats tell a very different story. Multiple sources describe Harry as looking absolutely miserable throughout the entire Sundance experience. Photographers captured him standing awkwardly on the periphery, while Meghan worked the room with the energy of someone who had finally found her natural habitat. One observer said Harry looked like he would rather be literally anywhere else on the planet. Another noted that his body language suggested someone being dragged through an obligation rather than someone enjoying a shared professional triumph. The contrast with Meghan's animated engagement was impossible to miss. Hollywood insiders who witnessed the premiere described Harry as looking like a spare part, a phrase that carries obvious painful resonance given his memoir title. He stood aside while Meghan commanded every microphone. He watched while she posed for photographs. He held her coat while she greeted admirers. One entertainment journalist put it bluntly: "It was like watching the world's most expensive assistant. He was there to support her moment, not to have any moment of his own." For someone who once commanded international attention simply by existing, this diminished status must cut deeply. The documentary itself that Netflix rejected is now being shopped around to other distributors, representing yet another embarrassing failure for Archwell Productions. The company that was supposed to revolutionize content creation has produced almost nothing of lasting value. Projects announced with fanfare quietly disappear. Partnerships celebrated and press releases fade into silence. And now they are promoting someone else's rejected work at film festivals with empty seats. But the Sundance disaster revealed something even more troubling about Meghan's character that left witnesses genuinely unsettled. Sources who observed Meghan closely at Sundance came away deeply disturbed by what they witnessed regarding her interaction with children. Multiple witnesses report that Meghan does not like these children, referring to the young Cookie Queen stars who appeared in the documentary. The accusation is damning and specific. Meghan allegedly refused to sit with the child stars for any extended interview segments despite the entire premiere ostensibly celebrating their stories and achievements. Red carpet footage from the event appears to support these claims. Observers noted that Meghan would quickly pose for selfies with the children, creating the photo opportunity she clearly wanted before immediately dismissing them and moving on to adult conversation. One witness described it as the fastest child interaction I have ever seen from a supposed children's advocate. The smile would switch on for the camera and switch off the moment the picture was taken. For someone who constantly positions herself as a champion of young people, this alleged behavior represents a troubling contradiction. Here is where the situation becomes even more ironic. The documentary Cookie Queens actually exposes the exploitation built into the Girl Scout cookie selling system. The film apparently documents families going into debt, children being coached to weaponize cuteness for sales, and systemic problems within the organization. The messaging is controversial and provocative, and yet Harry and Meghan showed up to promote this content appearing completely clueless about its actual substance. One industry observer said they had clearly never watched the full film. They just saw an opportunity for positive press and jumped at it without doing any research. The hypocrisy layers keep building. Meghan has repeatedly positioned herself as an advocate against the commercialization of children. She has spoken about protecting young people from exploitation. She has criticized systems that use children for profit. And yet here she was, promoting a documentary about child exploitation while allegedly treating the actual child subjects with visible dismissiveness. One source summarized the situation perfectly. She wanted the optics of caring about these kids without actually having to spend time with them. That tells you everything you need to know about her authentic character. Multiple witnesses from the premiere expressed similar observations independently, suggesting this was not an isolated perception but a pattern noticed by several people. The children's advocate who cannot stand to be around actual children for more than a photo opportunity. The champion of youth empowerment who allegedly dismisses young people the moment cameras stop rolling. The message here is deeply troubling. The pattern of failure at Sundance has Hollywood asking one brutal question about the Sussexes' entire future in the entertainment industry. Page 6 delivered a devastating assessment of Harry's current situation that should alarm anyone still invested in the Sussex fairy tale. The publication reported that Harry is without steady income and without purpose, a characterization that cuts to the bone of everything he supposedly left royal life to achieve. The article described his trajectory as going from royal warrior to sideline despair, which might be the most accurate summation of Harry's American adventure that any publication has yet produced. Sources within the entertainment industry are not being kind about Harry's prospects. One insider said his only real strengths are public engagements and public speaking, essentially confirming that Harry's main value proposition is being a rent-a-prince. He shows up at events, he gives talks about mental health and veteran issues, he provides the royal-adjacent credibility that certain organizations will pay for. But that is not a career, that is not a purpose, that is freelance celebrity work disguised as meaningful contribution. And even that limited market is reportedly drying up as Harry's public image continues to deteriorate. The commercialization hypocrisy has become impossible to ignore. During his UK court testimony, Harry spoke emotionally about how he felt commercialized as a child, how his image was used without his consent, how the royal system exploited his existence for institutional gain. These are serious complaints that deserve consideration, but examine his current behavior. Archie and Lilibet's images have been used repeatedly to sell Meghan's products and promote their brand. Their children appear in carefully staged photographs designed to maximize commercial impact. Harry is doing to his own children exactly what he claims damaged him so profoundly. Industry insiders are issuing stark warnings about the Sussex brand's future. Everything they touch turns controversial, one entertainment executive observed. Sponsors do not want controversy. Networks do not want constant crisis management. Advertisers do not want association with figures who generate more negative headlines than positive engagement. The Sussex brand has become toxic in ways that limit their commercial opportunities significantly. Companies that once eagerly pursued partnerships are now keeping their distance. One particularly brutal assessment from a Hollywood agent summarized the situation with painful clarity. They came here thinking they would conquer entertainment. Instead, entertainment has chewed them up and spit them out. They have no hit projects. They have no positive buzz. They have no clear path forward. What exactly are buyers supposed to be excited about? The lack of answers to that question speaks volumes about where the Sussexes currently stand in an industry that has largely moved on from whatever appeal they once possessed. So where does this leave the once beloved prince, as his 40s stretch before him with diminishing options? William's website strategy represents something far more significant than petty family revenge. This is a slow, methodical campaign to delegitimize Harry's royal standing in ways that will have permanent consequences. Every day those embarrassing details remain on Harry's official profile is another day his reputation suffers. Every day Meghan's request for positive updates goes ignored is another day the power dynamic between the Sussexes and the working royals becomes more clearly defined. William is not acting from emotion, he is acting from strategic calculation, building a case brick by brick for Harry's eventual irrelevance. Harry now faces an impossible choice that defines his entire future. He can continue on his current path, serving as Meghan's spare part, holding her coat at film festivals, supporting her projects while his own identity fades further into obscurity. This path offers stability of a sort, but requires Harry to completely surrender whatever remains of his individual purpose. Alternatively, he can attempt to find his own direction in a world that has largely moved on from Prince Harry as a solo figure of interest. But where would he even begin? His military career is over. His royal career is over. His Hollywood career never really started. What doors remain open for a man whose main qualification is an accident of birth? The title of his memoir has become prophetically cruel in ways Harry surely never intended. Spare was supposed to be a reclamation of that hurtful designation, a transformation of childhood pain into adult triumph. Instead, the word has come to define his current existence with devastating accuracy. He is now spare to his own wife's ambitions. He stands aside while she takes center stage. He supports her projects while his own ventures collapse. He has become exactly what he always feared being, only now he cannot even blame his brother for the situation. This particular spare status is entirely self-created. Watching Harry at Sundance, watching him in court, watching him navigate a world where his relevance diminishes daily, one cannot help but wonder what he thinks about during quiet moments in that Montecito mansion. Does he recognize what he has lost? Does he understand that the institution he attacked so viciously was also the only structure that gave his life meaning? Does he see that Meghan's dreams have consumed whatever dreams he once held for himself? William is watching all of this unfold with the patience of a man who knows time is on his side. Every Sussex failure validates his approach. Every empty premier seat confirms his assessment. Every rejected business pitch proves that leaving the royal family was never about freedom, but about delusion. And when William eventually takes the throne, all of this foundation he is building now will become the architecture of Harry's permanent exile from relevance. Do you think William should push harder to have Harry removed from the royal website entirely? Or is leaving his failures on display the ultimate revenge? Drop your thoughts below. Like, subscribe, and stay tuned. The next video is waiting, and you will not believe what is coming next.